So here we are on our nature hike through Shadow Bay Park. We're on one of the paths off the main pathway. And right here we have a sand pine. These are native to Florida. They have the short needles on them. You can see the little tiny pine cones up there. Here we are walking along the trail. This is a very sandy area here, hence the name sand pines. They like to grow in the very sandy soils around here. This is a salt palmetto, and if you look closely at the branches of it, or the fronds, you can see that it has like little saw teeth, very, very sharp. These also get berries on them, and the berries, here's where the berries were, right here. They're a food source for lots of wild animals, including bears. And here we've got an oak, and you can see that it's pollen season. So there's an example of the pollen right there. Pretty cool. And so that's a scrub oak there, and they're colonial in nature, which means they like to colonize an area. So they just kind of spread out all over the place and create a dense forest. This is rusty Lyonia, and you can tell it's when it gets new leaves, they're kind of rusty. So that's a native species here in the park as well. There's another pine. Oh, and this is really cool right here. These are lichens, and you'll find them on a lot of trees, and they can be this moss color, they can be red. You can see a little example of the red right there. And this has a symbiotic relationship with the tree, so that means that it's not hurting the tree, it's living in harmony with the tree. And in areas where they have snow and it gets really cold, these lichens are a food source for the deer. So you can kind of imagine them as skittles stuck to a tree, and a deer or a caribou or an elk comes up and nibbles on them. Pretty cool. And you can also see some of our Spanish moss in here. This isn't really a moss, and it's not from Spain. It's an air plant, an epiphyte. And when the Spanish came, they thought it looked like the conquistador's beard, so they called it Spanish moss. But it's really an epiphyte. It actually gets little flowers, so you can see the flowers. Let me see if I can get that clearer. Gotta stop shaking the branch, I guess. Let's see. Can you see it? Come on, get into focus. Well, that's the flower of it. So pretty cool. We'll continue on our journey here, walking on this path. It's pretty quiet here at the park. You can hear the birds chirping. Oh, look, here's on the saw palmetto. Here's an area with some fresh berries coming. You can see them. Lots of little berries that are going to be there probably by summer. Pretty cool. And then this is a really cool plant too. This is called a resurrection fern. Now you probably realize we haven't had rain in a while. So once we get some rain, this plant will resurrect itself. It'll come back to life, and it'll be all green. And you'll usually find them on a tree, a lot of times on the north side of the tree. So pretty cool. So whenever you're out hiking, look for those. And then you can also see our lichens. And then we've also got some moss growing on this tree. And this is a holly here. You can see by the little spiky leaves here. So lots of cool stuff. A nice example of some Spanish moss. And maybe you can see the flowers on it. There you go. There's some flowers on the Spanish moss and more of our pollen. So that's the thing. In 4th grade, you really need to know your native plants and animals. We haven't seen any animals yet, but we're still on our adventure.